What's up, y'all? Hey, pound for pound, ATL is back in the house, and you guys requested guests, and guess what? We got a gentleman, young gentleman, I call the draft buff, sitting right here in the middle of us. His name is Alex Gilstrap, and we followed this guy on Twitter like a couple of weeks ago, and now look, here he is, and I'm going to let him do the rest and shut my mouth.
Yeah, like you said, my name's Alex Gilstrap on Twitter, at Alex Gilstrap, very simple. I write for NFL Mocks. It's a FanSided network. I've been writing for them for a couple months now, but I've been covering the draft since 2018. So that Saquon Barkley, Baker Mayfield year. Working on a numerical grading scale that I've incorporated this draft season. It's been fun, though.
Good deal. Well, we are definitely glad to have you on. As we have stated plenty of times before, I know me, myself, I don't necessarily get into college guys or the draft stuff until the season is over. So it's good to have, somebody like yourself who pays a lot of attention to this. I'll be like getting up to speed, or that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, this week is combine week. So.
Yeah.
Right. So definitely getting up to speed now. And speaking of combine week, we had some interesting things already coming out from our fearless leader and old helmet hair. No, I smell our helmet hair and Thomas Dimitrov already stating once again for the public that they're going to let Austin Hooper and Devondre Campbell test free agency.
Which is no surprise because they already talked about they was probably going to not sign him if his price tag was too high anyway. So this just confirms that they're going to let him walk and see what his value is.
And I think there's a team out there that's going to value him at anywhere from $10 to $12 million a year.
Yes, sir.
I think that's and then we're really going to get to see is it Austin Hooper that is uber talented, or is it Matt Ryan that makes him look good?
All right.
So that'll be interesting to see in the coming days. But what are your feelings about them like publicly coming out and saying about Devondre Campbell? I don't think they had said publicly yet, or at least in an official capacity. Not that I had heard. I was kind of hoping that maybe we would re-sign him.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Alex answer that first, and then I'll come in.
I'll just say from a draft perspective, I think Devondre Campbell is someone that he fills a role for us, obviously.
Right.
And this is not a draft. If you're wanting to try to fill that gap in the draft, you're not going to do it at the linebacker position in this draft. Not at even though he doesn't play at a super high level, he fills a role at a starting caliber level that you're not going to get out of anyone in this draft. If you're trying to compete next year, like we have the roster on paper to do, he's not going to be too expensive. I know the cap situation is the way it is, but you got to pay the man.
But so you're feeling that you should definitely try to bring Campbell back, which is kind of like my feeling as well on that aspect. Campbell at times has played at a very high level in this system, and I think that's something that you saw it last year, that when the second half switch, right, when Debo started to look more comfortable, Devondre looked more comfortable.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like it's almost like he got to play free again.
Yeah.
And they started using him within his capabilities of being like a rush linebacker.
Yeah.
And he does a decent job guarding tight ends. So I wouldn't mind having him back at the right price.
Well, I think we will be able to keep him. It was rumored that he wanted at least 8 per. We'll see if that is something that he's going to be valued at when we let him go into free agency. But he's definitely a guy that in the second half played like his hair was on fire.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in that Carolina Panthers game when we was up there. Had interception, was very disruptive on the quarterback and all of those great things. So we'll see. And with Alex already slapping us in the face saying this draft is not really deep with the linebackers, it looks like we might be keeping Devondre Campbell and having to let Austin Hooper walk, which I think is going to be an obvious walk because he's going to be too high.
I think so. And if it's a thing where I will be okay with letting Hooper walk if you bring in a defensive starter. Like free agent wise, defensive starter, if you can bring me, somebody like, now granted it's come out that he wants 22 a year, but that the defensive end out in Jacksonville.
Yannick Ngakoue?
Yeah.
Woo, boy, good job, Alex.
Man,
I got it.
You were destined for greatness. I wasn't even going to attempt it, and you just wham, rolled that one right on through.
I got your back.
But yeah, now I don't know if I want to pay him $22 million a year.
No, he's great, but we don't have the situation.
No, we ain't got the cap situation.
Dante Fowler's an option.
Right, I would be interested to see what he is going to command.
Yeah, Gerald McCoy.
If you let Austin Hooper walk, you got to bring in somebody of that caliber on the defensive side to make me feel okay about letting Hooper walk.
Yes, I would love to have Gerald McCoy. Now, of course, someone got at me on Twitter saying he's too old. He's a has-been, but I still believe this guy is very productive, even in his age. Had 5 sacks last season. Now, yes, there were some guys on that defensive line that helped him with that, but he still is a productive guy. And I think he would be a great guy to bring in with Raheem Morris, who drafted him, who knows him, and he knows this scheme, okay, because they played similar. Because you got that, Monte Kiffin, Tampa 2 top style that the Falcons do run with Dan Quinn, some of it. And that's why it makes sense to have Raheem Morris taking over defense coordinator.
And I think you're going to see a little bit more of that Tampa 2 influence with Raheem Morris at the helm, like fully at the helm this year. Because I think Dan Quinn has learned his lesson in a sense of he needs to, take a step back because, head coaching duties are far outweigh defensive coordinator duties. Let's go ahead and hit up some of the chat.
I'm reading this chat.
There's a lot going on, boy.
Right.
So we're going to start it up at the top. Everybody said hello to everyone out there. We got somebody from, let's see, Mr. CDX for life up there in North Carolina.
What's
awesome.
up?
Appreciate y'all watching us. Let's see, Jew Talk Sports. What's up, Jew? Anthony Wright asked what's popping. You already know it. We are dead in this conversation about free agency and draft and everything else. That is definitely what we're talking about today. Let's see. Josiah says, bruh, Hooper could really stop BSing and take it down to $10 million a year contract. We really use him moving forward. Yeah, I mean, but hey, I'm not gonna get into somebody else's pocket. If he can get $12 million a year, I'm not gonna stop him, and I'm not gonna be mad at him for doing it either.
I got a comment on Anthony. He's talking about Zach Bond, and I gotta tell you, I love me some Zach Bond.
Okay.
I actually did his final film eval just the other day.
I got you.
And the Wisconsin edge rusher, outside linebacker, if you want to run a 3-4, he can kind of do it. He's versatile, and he can do a lot of things well. He actually finished with a late first-round grade for me. Okay. But I think he's going to be someone that's available day 2 on that second-round pick for us.
I was about to say, so if you let Devondre Campbell walk and we decide to pick up Bond, I mean, do you think that would be a suitable replacement? Yeah,
I mean, Zach Bond, he can do a lot. Like I said, he can do a lot of things well. He can drop back into coverage if you need him to, but he also, he can rush the outside. He can bend. He has great natural athleticism, but he also has that speed to power. Has inside counters, good spin move. Yeah, he's a natural.
I'd definitely
high
say
motor.
Right. I was going to say, I definitely say the film that I have watched of Bond, I have enjoyed what I have seen from him. That was somebody that I was going to bring up, but I see that Anthony beat me to it.
So as you can see, Alex, these guys and ladies do not play in this chat. They be coming with it every time that we come on here. So and we appreciate that. We humbly appreciate that. Thank you guys.
See, Charleston Nash. Okay, he hit me with this on Twitter. So and I figured he was going to bring it up again here tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and read this one out. It says the Iowa head coach and Thomas Dimitroff worked together in Cleveland. So do you think that he may have like an inside edge or whatever, but maybe some different insight on AJ Espinosa? Huh?
I mean, Epinesa, he's been mocked to us a lot.
He has been.
Him and Caleb Von Chason out of LSU have been the hot topic, for people to mock to us. There's definitely, a relationship there like we're talking about here that Charleston mentioned. And then Dan Quinn in Seattle, AJ Epinesa can fill that role that Michael Bennett had for him.
Exactly. Like if you were going for more of a power rusher.
Right.
And something that you, Toby, mentioned a couple weeks ago about Espinosa, like really reminding you of Adrian Claiborne.
Right.
And I really think that if I would not be upset one bit if we end up with AJ Espinosa. He's not necessarily my top choice. My top choice is Kinlaw. Like hands down.
All three of us.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
And I'm sure you guys in the chat too.
Yeah, Javon Kinlaw's number 11 on my big board right now. So,
Right.
I mean, he's the guy.
Exactly. Like my top choice is Kinlaw.
So that means we jumping.
You may have to.
I think we sit.
Okay.
Kinlaw, there's been some rumors of him going in that early teens range. Okay. Tampa at 14 especially has been like a big.
Yeah, but how many defensive tackles are they going to take?
I mean, Vita Vea feels that that one tech, that big penetration style. Javon Kinlaw's more of a natural pass rusher on the interior. They could pair very well. Obviously, quarterback need with Jameis Winston and his
you don't know what they haven't decided.
LASIK surgery,
Well, maybe he can see now.
Yeah, maybe.
And Jason Pierre-Paul, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be a free agent.
Well, they've said that they want to, that they wanted to keep that rush together, with Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett.
No!
I know, right? I don't think you're going to get Shaq Barrett.
We can't afford any of them right now. We're in cap hell. I'm sorry.
Well, look now, Thomas Dimitroff will tell you they're not in cap hell.
Okay.
They're in cap hell.
They're in capital hell.
Yeah.
Capital hell, that's for sure. It's all right. Speed Falcon for Life says, "What's up? What's up, Speed? All right, here's your chance. Here's y'all can dig this out."
I see it.
And Sharon says, "What's your thoughts on Bradley and I?"
I'm gonna let Alex take this because y'all know how I feel.
Yeah, so
Alex.
So I watched your video on your top edge rushers, and I saw that Bradley and I was one of your favorites, obviously behind Chase Young. Great Senior Bowl. What was it? 3 sacks?
Yeah.
And 4 tackles for loss. He was disrupting.
On fire.
He was a natural disruptor. I'll give him that. I actually did his film evaluation probably about a week ago now. I was really excited after the big Senior Bowl, but I didn't get the consistency that I thought I was going to get after seeing what he did in Mobile. There's obviously a length issue. He has short arms, and it's easy to tell on tape.
I got you.
So he's probably going to come in 32 inches or so.
I would say less than that. I'm saying 30-inch arms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he gets beat.
Y'all heard that's wow.
He has every move in the arsenal, and he needs that to compensate for those short arms. But he does. He has short arms, and when you go up against the longer and stronger tackles of the NFL, he's going to struggle early. He's a sub-package player to me in the NFL. He's a borderline 3rd, 4th round grade for me, kind of on the combine will solidify whether he's a 3rd or 4th rounder for me. If he comes out and his explosive numbers, broad jump, vertical jump are really good, shows that athleticism. He might jump into the 3rd round, but he's right on that borderline, like I said. I just don't see the consistency, and I think length is going to be a bigger issue at the next level than he dealt with.
Well, whether it ends up translating or not, length is definitely something that they consider because, that's essentially what dropped Grady Jarrett down to a 5th round pick.
Right.
Is that his measurables weren't, up to the prototype of what they wanted for a defensive tackle.
Well, here's what I like about Bradley and I.
All right.
I still believe he has one of the fastest get-offs of anybody I've seen in this draft class.
Definitely.
And that's one of the things that Dan Quinn covets. Yeah. And I think that could help him if he can out-jump the offensive lineman that's in front of him. Now, he can get in trouble with getting offsides because he likes to...
Yeah, he tries to jump the snap.
The snap count.
I noticed that a lot.
That reminds me of Shane Ray.
Yeah.
Like Shane Ray out of Missouri a few years back. He went the same draft as Beasley went. I think it was Beasley, that same draft, but I know he went pretty high.
Yeah, it was in there.
Yeah, and he went higher, and I think a lot of it had to do with like he was a snap guesser, and that got exposed real quick in the NFL.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how an eye test and where he ends up.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what his combined measurables are going to be and how he tests. More largely to me, I'm definitely interested to see how he does on the vertical.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm more interested to see, to kind of mark more of that explosion. See what that number turns into. If he gives a low number, then I may be changing, because I did tell y'all that it was subject to change.
Yeah,
so
right.
I did
So,
put that
all
out.
things are subject.
Yeah,
all things are
exactly.
subject to change. Now, something I wanted to get your opinion on. I've been seeing, I haven't had a chance to dig into it too much, but I've been seeing that they have changed up some drills at the combine.
Right.
For some of the defensive guys, they're doing now a figure 8 drill.
Yes, that figure 8 drill is going to be huge.
I think that's going to do real well in actually like showcasing more
The
practical.
bend.
Yeah,
bend.
because the thing is edge rushers now, defensive ends, outside linebackers, that whole thing, pass rushers in general, they require a different skill set than they did 20 years ago, and and so the drills have to adapt with that. And bend and flexibility and speed is one of the best, most coveted things in an edge rusher. So this figure 8 drill, just imagine 2 giant hula hoops, and they are running in a circle, and they have to pick things up off the ground. So you're trying to do it as fast as you can while picking up these bean bags, so that'll show off that hip flexibility, that ankle flexibility. And so, that kind of translate. Think of a guy trying to outrush a tackle to the edge, and by bend, we mean flat line once you get to the top of the outside shoulder of the tackle.
Right.
And dipping that shoulder underneath the tackle's hand placement.
Yes.
And being able to explode out of that stance and get to the quarterback.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to translate well.
Now, what's interesting about that is not really anything new to us. We've seen this before with other coaches that have done this drill, but they brought it to the combine.
Right.
I remember back in 2014 in Jadeveon Clowney's pro day, he actually did that figure 8.
Yes.
And I think Tosh Lupai, our defensive line coach, actually runs those drills too. He did, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Alabama.
Okay.
So you may see a lot more of him doing that with our guys in camp or whatnot.
That would be real good. Okay, so we're gonna stick. I see some people asking about tight ends. We're gonna get into that here in just a second.
Oh yeah, it's coming, y'all. It's coming. Trust me.
I forgot about you. But I did see where Drew Talk Sports brought up Kevlon.
Caleb Chase. I got you.
Yeah.
So that's my guy. He's my second rated edge behind the obvious Chase Young, who's arguably the best player in this draft.
Right.
Caleb Chase is what we want Vic Beasley to be. He's Vic Beasley plus. He has that speed and explosion, but he's a willing and able run defender, and he has more of a power package than Vic Beasley has ever had in his career, especially coming out of college. Vic Beasley, in my opinion, is more of a one-trick pony as a pass rusher.
Yeah, he was more of a speed.
Right, yeah, he has speed, and every once in a while he'd beat you with an inside counter because you're trying to get to that outside so he wouldn't get to your outside shoulder. But Caleb Chase has more to his arsenal. He can speed to power. He has good lower body explosion. I really was looking forward to him putting up the best numbers on that figure 8 drill.
I got you.
But it came out, I think it was yesterday, that he's not going to be taking part in any. He doesn't want to be, what is it called, the guinea pig?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be the guinea pig with some of these. It was a business decision. He's a solidified top 20 pick.
And you're seeing a lot of that more in the last
last couple of years. These guys know and have a good idea about where they're going, and they're not risking anything. And I'm going to be honest, I don't blame them.
I can't say that I blame them.
Just like Javon went to this Senior Bowl. He knew he was going to have a great practice, but he wanted to find out and get more of a gauge, in my opinion, on where he thought he may go.
Yep.
And once he got that information, he no longer needed to showcase anything.
Well, Kinlaw's also trying to play his card of, I'm a competitor. I don't care what I'm doing. I'm going to compete.
Yes.
Well, I will say this. When I was putting together tape on Kinlaw, last year's South Carolina team was horrible. But that dude showed up every day.
Yeah.
Even in the very last game where they were completely out of bowl contention.
Right.
I know it was a rivalry game against Clemson, but still, dude was playing hard from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely like seeing that. To me, that's the biggest knock on Beasley was he almost seemed like he didn't have that desire.
Yeah.
So somebody's asking about Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on?
Well, I'll talk about AJ Epinesa real quick because
Okay.
I see, I think someone wants to see the thoughts there.
I
AJ Epinesa wasn't as big of a fan as I hoped going in, because when I did his final film eval, that was when he was being mocked to us consistently. It's kind of changed from AJ Epinesa being the favorite to now Caleb Chase
Right.
In most mock drafts. But AJ Epinesa, he actually finished with an early second round grade for me. that's not necessarily a bad thing. I've usually finished between 20 to 25 first-round grades.
Got you.
So by first-round grade, I mean I am happy selecting them in the first round. Like, I'm comfortable with that. AJ Epinesa, there is a lot of concern about his athleticism, and I think this combine will be huge for him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't showcase anything on tape to me that showed that he can threaten the outside. He's strong, probably one of the strongest defensive linemen, not just edge rushers, but defensive linemen in this class.
Dude is strong,
and
sure.
he can push back, he can penetrate the pocket, but he needs to develop more of a versatile skill set for me. But on to Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen came on this year.
Right.
LSU had as a team, obviously, did really well.
Exactly.
Individually, though, on the defensive side of the ball, they had a couple players disappoint, Grant Delpit being one of them. But Patrick Queen was one of those guys that stepped up to the plate and filled that role for him. Patrick Queen, sideline-to-sideline speed, comes with a thump. One of the best coverage linebackers I've ever scouted. He's my linebacker, too, behind Isaiah Simmons.
I got you.
I got to check him out.
Yeah, he's a top 20 player on my board.
If we were to come away with Patrick Queen at 16, you think that's too rich for him? I'm only asking these as in, like, okay, obviously as it stands right now, before the combine is complete,
Right.
Chaseon and Kinlaw are pretty much our consensus, like
top guys
that
right.
we want.
Yeah.
But for some odd reason, say we don't come away with either one of them.
You're right.
Would Patrick Queen be a good consolation prize, especially if we lose Devondre?
Yeah. Well, I saw someone in the chat. I can't remember who it was. Cody Paul. I saw it. It just went away. Don't settle for someone just because of the need. Obviously, we're not going to take a quarterback round one.
Right.
But if it's someone that can fill a role for us, if they're the best player available, I'm all for best player available.
Okay, so you're a best player available kind of.
Yeah, as long as it's not like quarterback.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we've seen now under Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitrov that they're not just going to take anyone at that spot or any spots they've had over the years of being together based on need. They're going to go by best player available if there's a best player available there, like Calvin Ridley
that's what I was
a couple of years ago.
To say, because who saw that coming? Like, seriously,
I didn't.
Because I didn't. Because I figured we then and now needed defensive help that year. And I figured that's where we were going to go in that first round. So let's see. Anthony Wright says, I can only speak for myself, but I'm going to miss Vic Beasley. Fellas, he has great get-off at the snap of the ball. That he does. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to, denounce the man's speed. He's got very good get-off. It's just he never finished in a lot of ways. It says, now, Takk McKinley. If we could trade him for a second or third round pick, I'd do it.
I don't think you're getting a second or third round pick out of him.
Not with his shoulder injury concerns, right? But speaking of Takk McKinley, the reason why, I went ahead and read that comment was because there was some mistalk back and forth between Dimitrov and Dan Quinn on whether we were going to pick up his 5th-year option or not. They asked Dimitrov, he said it was still undecided. I think your boy Jason Butt asked Quinn, and Quinn's first answer was no.
Yeah, exactly.
And to me, that's telling right there, if that's your first answer. And then he's going to talk about, clarification, I misunderstood the question.
Come on.
How you misunderstand that question?
So now we already know what will happen to these guys if you put them in an interrogation room.
Yeah, they're gonna turn on each other in a heartbeat. They're gonna flip on each other. But no. So all that tells me is that, like they should, I don't think they should be picking up his 5th-year option. Me myself, he hasn't shown you enough consistency to warrant a 5th-year option.
And it sounds like before we went on air, Alex, you agree with us too on that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you already kind of got bit a little bit with Beasley's 5th-year option.
Yeah.
And I think they've already enacted Neal's 5th-year option, which is now 100% guaranteed because he got hurt.
But see, like I said before, here you go with trying to correct mistakes.
Right.
And so you're using these guys now to try to fix those mistakes that you made already with these big free agent signings, i.e. Devontae Freeman, i.e. Desmond Trufant. Then you picked up Vic Beasley 5th year, which, would be disappointing to most because you gave the man, $12 million or whatnot. Now you're trying to, of course, you saying now it's undecided if you're going to pick up Takk McKinley's 5th-year option or not, but I like I said, I think it would be worth not doing it.
Yeah, I think it would be too much of a risk, especially with his shoulder concerns and with his up and down play on the field. Now, again, I'm not labeling just sacks, because I mean that's what everybody that's the eye candy that everybody likes to look at. But I'm also talking about like disruptive plays in general, and there's too many times that Tad McKinley isn't necessarily affecting the game. Like he's got, he has plays and he's got times where he is affecting the game,
right,
whether it be sacks or run stops or holding the edge or commanding double teams or what have you. But
a lot of what he does doesn't show up in the box score too.
Right, and that's hard to. But how valuable is that really?
I mean,
I hate to say it like that.
Yeah, but the same could be said. I know you kind of said the same thing about Caleb Chason. He didn't have the production, but this is kind of something we were talking about before we started the show. Is the box score doesn't always show up. A player like Von Miller this year had 8 sacks, same as Vic Beasley.
Right.
When he hasn't had less than double-digit sacks since 2014. Sometimes the pocket just falls the way it does for a season, and that's how it was for Caleb Chason. He was constantly in the backfield, but if a quarterback moves up right before you get there, what are you going to do? You can't do nothing about it. He probably was second in the nation in quarterback hurries.
Right.
But just because he doesn't have that production, that sack numbers, a tackle for loss number, some people are worried about that, and I'm just here to say, don't be worried about that. If you want to put Takk McKinley as your power rusher on one side, your strong side guy,
right,
and then on the weak side you have Caleb Chason to be that speed edge rusher to just round off the edge. I mean, I think that's a good pairing. And then, he has that athleticism that Thomas Dimitroff and Dan Quinn love in their defense. We've seen that throughout the years, obviously.
All right, so I'm seeing a lot of people talking about, possibly trading up.
Right.
Trading up for potentially like a Derek Brown. I think you'd have to go too far to get Derek Brown.
Yeah, I think the gap between Derek Brown and Javon Kinlaw is not as big as the draft capital you would have to give up.
I think so.
You know what I mean?
I think if you're going up to get anybody, you would get Kinlaw.
Right, because if you have to go up to get Derek Brown, you're having to trade up to like 7. That range, Carolina. And that's too far. You're going to have to give up a lot of draft capital, future first-round pick, something. Whereas Javon Kinlaw, we have that second for the Mohamed Sanu trade.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have 2 second-round picks and, of course, our third-round pick. We have a lot to deal with on day 2 if we just need to move up a few spots. 13, Indianapolis to snag that, Javon Kinlaw, because I know that that's a potential landing spot. 14 to Tampa to pair with Vita Vea. So if we need to jump up just a few spots, I think we can get Javon Kinlaw. Derek Brown, you're going to have to give up more than it's worth.
More than
the
more capital than it's worth. That much is for sure. Let's see. Somebody, Sheer A says, can you talk replacements for Isaiah Oliver? Why are we replacing Isaiah Oliver?
Because he plays like a JV corner.
I don't know. I didn't think he played that bad.
He got better in the second half as the year progressed under Raheem Morris, of course.
Right. And another thing is it's not just Isaiah Oliver. There's rumors of Desmond Trufant being out the door here soon, whether that's through trade or cutting him after this season, whatever the case is. There's a need at corner, at least for depth.
Yeah, and I would agree.
So since we've been really focusing this whole conversation so far on first round,
right?
Is there a first round corner that you would take if the cards don't fall the way we want as far as defensive line? I've seen the kid out of Ohio getting drafted
Ohio State,
Jeffrey
Okudah. That's
right. So I'm assuming that's the cream, right? That's the cream of the crop of this draft class. So who would be in more of a mid-first round range?
Yeah, if we were to go first round, I think it would be Christian Fulton. I've seen up there, LSU.
Yep,
I'm honestly not as high on him. I think part of it's Derek Stingley, the freshman sensation, kind of overshadowed him a little bit.
Gotcha.
But Christian Fulton, he struggles at the catch point. When the ball's in the air, whether it's turning his head around to find the ball, he struggles. He gets lost in space. My favorite corners, if you're to go middle of round 1, Jeff Gladney out of TCU. Physical, athletic. I love Jeff Gladney. He's one of my favorites in this draft class. He's one of my guys. And then, honestly, round 1, I'm not a big fan of corners.
Okay, so you would probably hold off on. Obviously, if you can't get the Ohio State guy.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Which obviously is
Right.
I've
It's out
seen
of the
him
cards.
going like highest pick 3 to Detroit.
Right.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
Detroit's where his landing spot.
So I don't see him being in the cards at all. So if not him, then you would probably suggest staying away from the corner in the first round?
I think first round corners, like I said, there's Gladney. There's the potential with Christian Fulton that I'm not necessarily big of a fan of. C.J. Henderson, I think, out of Florida, is somebody that the NFL is going to be higher on than draft Twitter. The guys I interact with day in and day out.
Okay.
A lot of people complain about his physicality and willingness to tackle. I personally think it's a little bit blown out of proportion. And as a corner, you're paying the guy and you're drafting the guy to cover first and foremost.
Oh, yeah.
And C.J. Henderson is the second best man coverage corner in this draft class behind Jeffrey Okudah, the Ohio State kid. So C.J. Henderson, someone else. I think a lot of Twitter's going to hate C.J. Henderson because they, if you go and watch some Florida games, you can see he makes some business decisions. He doesn't get in with the big running backs and the big tight ends. He kind of lets the other guys take care of business.
I got you.
So, but he's a first round caliber.
We've seen that in the NFL too, so it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think the issues are blown out of proportion. C.J. Henderson, I know Robert mentioned him here. C.J. Henderson's another good one.
Right.
But I think this corner class, I said on Twitter before, is probably my favorite position group in this class.
Okay.
And that comes from that day 2 range. That second, third round range is where I think there are a plethora.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
A plethora of cornerback prospects.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just all over the place. No matter what scheme, it's like a pick your poison. If you want to play, strictly press man, they got that. If you want to play a zone scheme, Bryce Hall out of Virginia, you got that.
I've heard that name, Bryce Hall, quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right,
it sounds like we got a lot of decisions to make in that second and third round on that second day, boy.
Because it also comes down to if we're not re-signing these guys, it may not be a good idea to trade both of those second round picks. To move up.
And it's sounding like that from the conversations I'm hearing right here. We may not need to trade those away.
We may just want to stick with what we got at 16.
Yeah.
Pick who's there. Whether it be a Chase Young or an Espinosa or even a Kinlaw.
Right.
I mean, see, it sounds like you got enough options in the first round at the range where we're at, where we should come away with an impact player. Now, the big elephant in the room, or the tight end sized elephant in the room, is looking more and more like we're letting Hooper walk.
Right.
That's almost a guarantee at this junction.
With that asking price, right?
Right, with that asking price, unless he just gets rebuffed, but I don't think he's going to get rebuffed. Not when you got teams out there that are just flush with cap space. Somebody's going to sign him.
Right.
So, is there somebody in this draft class that you would feel comfortable replacing him with? I mean, I know there's not no big.
Yeah, there's no first round guy.
Right.
Last year you had a couple. You had the 2 Iowa kids. Detroit got T.J. Hawkinson, and Denver got Noah Fant. Those are some big time tight ends. This year, I wouldn't even spend 47, the second round pick that we have on a tight end. I don't think there's one worthy. Some names that come to mind is potential late second, third round picks. Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame. He's kind of your prototypical tight end, inline blocker that can also stretch the field vertically.
Yeah,
kind of well-rounded. Yeah, that's your
Yeah.
But if you want that difference maker, I know we're talking about needing a number 3 option if Hooper leaves at receiving target. Hunter Bryant out of Washington.
Okay.
He's
not your typical tight end. He's not very big. He's almost built like a big
slot.
slot.
I was about to say, I've heard he's more like a big wide receiver. I haven't
Right.
had a chance to sit down and watch his stuff yet. But
He moves really, really well for a tight end. I think he does a lot of things well. He was paired with Jacob Eason in that Washington offense, which, I know a lot of Falcons fans know Jacob Eason very well, coming from Georgia. But, Hunter Bryant's another one. Bryson Hopkins out of Purdue. Field stretcher, kind of an all-around guy, very similar to Cole Kmet.
There goes my favorite field stretcher again.
Yeah. And then a sleeper that, his name's starting to come up on some big boards is Adam Troutman.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Dayton.
I've heard.
So small school, but dominated competition. I just recently did his film eval. Obviously, you got to put into account the fact that he's playing these
lower level.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's good. He's athletic. We're gonna see how he does at the combine, how he tests athletically. I mean, obviously, when you're playing at Dayton and you're an NFL caliber player, you look you look like a stud every play.
Every play.
So, we saw him at the Senior Bowl. He had a pretty good Senior Bowl, nothing that made you shy away from him. But it'll be interesting to see athletically how he goes up against these other top tight ends.
Now, who was that small school tight end that we got a couple years ago? His name just left my brain. We traded him to New England or whatever.
Oh, Eric Salbert.
Salbert. That's
Salbert,
it.
yeah.
So I wonder if, I hope it's not like a Salbert situation where, like, Salbert was a man amongst boys.
Right.
At whatever small, track school he went to.
That's the thing that bothers me a little bit about Troutman. Just from what I was watching, he seems more like a pass catcher than he is a blocker, all-around blocker or inline player. And that's just me looking at him. I do still have rookie eyes, and I'm still trying to develop them. But I just don't see a guy that's going to give you that blocking ability that you're going to need, especially with you losing Austin Hooper.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're going to go with a blocking, it seems like I've heard somewhat rumors that they may decide to pick up, what's his face? Oh, man, names.
Is he a free agent or he in the draft?
The other tight end that we had this year, the one that was from Tampa.
Oh, O.J. Howard.
No, not O.J. Howard. He was on our team. The other. You had
Luke Stalker?
Yes.
Oh, heck no. he better go back and stay in Tampa.
But if you want to talk about if we're talking Tampa tight ends, if you do want to look to fill that role on a cheaper contract, I know Anthony's brought it up a couple times now. Cameron Brate,
right.
Veteran presence. He does a lot of things very solid. He can fill a role. He's not flashy. He's not gonna. He's getting up there.
He's used to Cutter. I mean, Cutter's what made him look good.
Right.
And Cutter's used to him, so I could definitely see, like if we're bringing in a free agent tight end, that it would be him. I see people keep throwing out the name Randy Moss's kid.
That is Moss. That is Moss. Yes, I like that guy. Okay. What you think, Alex?
Well, he actually came into the combine measured today. Tight ends got measured in today. He's short.
Really?
Yeah,
he's 6'1".
Yeah. Oh, he's shorter than.
He's 6'1".
Wow, yo, you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's slow. He's 6'1" and slow.
Yeah, that he is.
Short and slow.
He can block really well. He's really physical.
Yep.
But he's slow and he's short. I think his stock's going to drop.
Yeah.
I think he's someone that, even though he's Randy Moss's son, I think he's going to drop because of those things. I don't think he's going to test athletically very well. I don't think the combine's going to be nice to him.
No.
I think he's going to drop right before draft time. But that could be good for us if you do like what he
his blocking ability.
Right,
he's tough.
I think he's going to be a good number 2 tight end at the next level. I don't think he's going to be an Austin Hooper or an O.J. Howard or anything like that, obviously. But he can come in, he can fill a role as a blocking tight end on, bunch sets or anything like that.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as something that I've mentioned before, as long as we have Cutter as our offensive coordinator, he's going to use whatever elite talent we have. And if it ain't a tight end, then we just won't use a tight end.
In what you can compensate not having a tight end in this offense, because you can heavily use heavy wide receiver sets.
Yeah. Which Cutter loves anyway.
Yeah.
He loves them 4 and 5 wide receiver sets.
Yeah.
Spread them out, let them go.
And then, Walter Mathis is over here talking about, Graham. Jaden Graham is faster than Hooper and has a little bit more twitch. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I don't know if I would want to label Jaden Graham tight end 1.
No. Sub-package guy.
I don't know if I want to go into the season with Jaden Graham as my tight end number 1, but I'm willing to give him some more reps. That much is for sure. Let's see. Speed Falcon for Life says, "Oh my God, I hate Dirk Cutter. Please let him go by." Well, you are definitely not the only one. You would have to join you and about every other Falcon fan on Twitter about not liking Mr. Cutter. But we might as well because we're stuck with him at least. This year,
yeah, we're stuck with the creative OC as Thomas Dimitrov called him.
Oh my God. You know that right there was straight up and down a jab at Falcons fans.
Oh, they've been jabbing at us a lot.
The whole time, man.
Yeah,
you can't tell me that
this
they
is
don't
nothing.
read Twitter.
Look, man, this jab here is not the only jab. When we wanted Matt Bryant back and Matt Bryant stunk it up,
Yep.
They jabbed at us about that.
Yep.
Okay, so it's no surprise that he would take a jab every chance to give. See, that's the mistake that you continue to make, Mr. Thomas Dimitrov. Don't jab at the fans,
Right.
Because you may not have any in that doggone dome if y'all don't make these right decisions when it comes up. I'm just saying.
They definitely got to make some. They got some crucial decisions this year as far as free agency goes, as far as draft goes, and they're on a short leash.
Right.
That much is for sure. Let's see. Well, yeah, okay. It says offense is good for 27 points a game. This is Mr. CDX for life. I honestly believe that this offense can average anywhere from 21 to 28 points. Okay, so 3 to 4 touchdowns. I think where this team is going to succeed, that's that video that I put out that hit yesterday. And as far as that video goes, I must have hit something weird on, like, when I was doing the film editing, because there's some kind of weird glare that's going on. Somebody
I thought you put that effect in there just to add something.
Not on purpose. And hey, look, believe it or not, I'm still an amateur at this stuff. So if y'all see some weird stuff on my videos, I apologize about that. Anyway, side point is I think that if this team is going to get back to where it wants to be, it has to be defensive driven. Because the limitations that are going to be placed on this offense because of Dirk Cutter, I hate to put it like that, but because of Dirk Cutter and because of not being able to have the cap to re-sign an Austin Hooper, make no mistake, that's going to hurt us. It's definitely not going to help.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be not felt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
So this defense is going to have to really step it up.
Yeah, that's 4 to 6 touchdowns that you will not have productive wise.
Yeah, exactly. And so that is a hold on, let's see if I can. We got some weird person in chat here. Y'all might have to give me a second.
Yeah.
See if I can. Yeah, that guy's got to go. Anyway, so but with that being said, that was what spurred the second half turnaround. In the second half of the season, is that the defense started making plays. Making plays, playing consistent, getting the picks, getting the turnovers, and the offense, for the most part, played like it did all season. So you can't sit here and tell me that we can't win games when we went 6-2 on the back half of the season, and that 6-2 is because the defense finally started getting stops and making plays.
Right.
So, well, I think a lot of pressure was also that we don't mention. A lot of pressure was taken off of them by Dan adopting the Mike Smith philosophy of taking the ball first on offense as well. You do that, you take a lot of pressure off the defense having to be the lead guys, and you let the offense lead it, especially when they score first.
Right.
And I think that will continue.
I think, and that's something I think that needs to continue, because this team, whether it's been under Mike Smith or whether it's been under Dan Quinn, the offense has always set the pace.
Yeah.
And, with Dirk Cutter in tow, it's now not a quick strike offense. It's a slow, methodical offense, which actually plays well into the defense's hands. Mm-hmm. So they don't get gassed nearly as much. So let's see here what else we got. Let's see. Xavier says, just checking in, fellas. Rise up. What's up, Xavier?
Rise up.
Michael says, they just mentioned him.
Talking about Zach Moss. We actually haven't talked about Zach Moss. Zach Moss is he's a running back for Utah. If you don't know, he's a bruising style running back.
I didn't.
You didn't?
Okay.
He's a thick boy. That's what I like to call him.
Okay, look,
but he runs with some
that.
tenacity. PFF actually came out with a statistic, said he broke the most tackles in college football this year.
Okay.
So he's an elusive. He's big body. He's contact balance out of the water. Doesn't possess necessarily the traits to be a home run threat. But that's not what you expect out of him. I think he's one of those, he'll get you those 4 or 5 yards of carry. He'll grind it out for you, 20 carries. I think he's a good complementary back. That's what I'm trying to say. I like Zach Moss. I think he's my running back 6 behind Cam Akers, which I know has been mentioned a couple times. Cam Akers behind a bad Florida State offensive line. He had to do a lot of things on his own. I think he got into some bad habits with that. So there's going to be some things that are going to have to be fixed. Whether it's with his vision and, just being assertive in the hole.
Right.
But Cam Akers has all the tools to be successful. Those two guys I wouldn't mind in the 3rd round. I wouldn't wouldn't be opposed to it. 4th round especially, I would love that.
Now my thought here is for as much as we got going on in the running back room that we have, because I am starting to think that we're going to keep Devontae Freeman. I could end up being wrong. It's just like one of those gut feeling things. With some of the moves that are being made right now, that they're coming out and announcing, it feels like that they would have already maybe let go of Freeman if they were going to do that.
Right. Yeah, I think we already would have.
But I also think a lot of it's tied up in the CBA not being set yet, and I think right now you can't do a post June 1 cut.
Right.
So they may also be waiting on to see what comes out with the CBA. But anyway, with the running back room that we have as of right now, I don't see us really needing to add a running back. I mean, you got Devontae Freeman, Ito Smith,
Quadre
Olison,
and possibly Brian Hill
a
coming
restricted
back.
free agent and Brian Hill.
Yeah. And
with the way that Dirk Cutter wants to use running backs, I don't really want to invest draft capital in it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be one of those things. We either invest early if we move on from Devontae Freeman, or maybe a late round pick. LaMichael Pirine, I see, has been mentioned out of Florida.
I got you.
He's kind of he does everything all right. There's not one piece of his game that he can hang his hat on, but he does a lot of things well. I think he's one of those people that you can draft, maybe 6th round or so. We don't have a 6th round pick, but 5th, 7th round, somewhere in that range. And he can fill a role for us, but not starting caliber. Unless you're investing in a Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers,
that's
J.K.
my
Dobbins.
thing. I just don't see us investing
right.
that type of draft capital when you have as many defensive needs and a handful of offensive needs over a running back. I mean, I know earlier we were talking about best player available type situation, but I mean, you potentially need a starting left guard. You need a potential tight end replacement.
Right.
And I think with the running back stable that we already have a lot of backs who can do a handful of things okay.
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
we have that. Yeah.
So I just don't necessarily need to or see a need in investing draft capital. And I tend to agree with Cody Paul talking about sleeping on Brian Hill. I think that's somebody that you could bring back pretty cheap.
Yeah, for sure.
And he has shown that he is at least better than serviceable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's better than Allison, that's for sure.
Well, you haven't. I just don't think you've seen enough of Allison. Not in a live game fire situation. Yeah, he's done really good as a short yardage back and a goal line back. Mm-hmm. And heck, that may be all he ever is.
I think that's going to be pretty much where his niche is going to be.
Who was it? LeGarrette Blount made a living, a career out of being short yardage and goal line back.
Yeah. In his later years.
He won 2 Super Bowls doing that.
Yeah, he did. He had a lot of touchdowns doing it too.
I mean, I'm definitely not against using Olison in that aspect. So let's see. Everybody's commenting on Brian Hill being a dog. Let's see. It says Josiah Atlanta says, I mean, if we keep him, I'm okay with that. I just need him to produce. I got heated watching this man slam into defenders like 10 feet taller than him, acting like he was fixing to knock him over. I'm assuming he's talking about Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
Come on, that was at least comical. Watching Mighty Mouse try to jump up there and knock out Frankenstein.
He got picked off the ground pretty high and carried a couple of yards, probably almost 5 yards before he went down landed his feet down. I will say this much about Devontae Freeman. I think, now this is just my theory. I have no facts on this.
Okay.
But I think if the Falcons cut Devontae, it will be depending on what their gauge is for a top pass rusher and if they really need that money.
Yeah, that's true.
If they feel like the gauge of a top pass rusher is going to be out of their league, they may decide to keep Devontae Freeman because of that. Now, I can see Dan Quinn, because they've done this before, trade for someone and from another team, depending on seeing where his team is after the draft.
Right.
Right. I agree completely. Let's see. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get rid of some unwanted stuff in chat there. All right, 420 War Game says, I really want Swift, but forget wasting a pick on a running back. Yeah, I want Swift too, but he ain't gonna come free.
Yeah, I mean, you would have, like with our draft capital, you'd have to spend 16 on him, and I'm not spending 16 on a running back.
No, not this year.
No.
Now I tell you what, I'll take his running mate. One of his running mates, was probably third on the running back. Yes.
Brian Herring?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. He's at the combine. He got a combine invite, so there's at least interest at the NFL level.
Right.
Yes.
Because the NFL, obviously the executives get to decide who gets to go to that. I don't think he has very much upside, but he can fill a role kind of like a Anito Smith. He can be a running mate.
Again, as far as like running mates go, we got a stable of running mates.
Yeah, we got
it. We don't need, if we're gonna take a running back, it's gonna be a Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah,
it needs
very
to be
late.
Taylor, a J.K. Dobbins, or a Swift.
Right.
If you're gonna take a running back, which I don't think using that kind of draft capital would be smart. Anthony Wright says we draft say Cam Akers, start him, 1,000 to 1,100 yards rushing, 500 yards receiving. Not in a dirt cutter led offense, it ain't gonna be.
Yeah, I think and on the Cam Akers side of things, I think there's he's gonna have an adjustment to the NFL.
Right.
A lot of bad habits, like I said earlier, behind that Florida State offensive line that was just atrocious. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen a Division I offensive line at a Power 5 conference school that looks that bad. And it's Florida State. They're supposed to be good. But yeah.
Well, I think that's what Taggart got, right? No?
Yeah, God.
So,
terrible.
When he says, Bobby Roches says, cut Freeman and trade up for Derek Brown. I don't think those two things don't coincide, right? I mean, cutting Freeman isn't going to allow you to trade up. Now, if that's what you would like to see happen,
that's just two isolated incidents.
Two isolated incidents, true. But, I mean, I would love to end up with Derek Brown. Let's see. Okay, Jordan Daniels asking for Clyde Edwards. Will be a second or third round. I think he would be good. Now, you were talking heavily about Clyde Edwards.
Yeah, I was before the show started, I was talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I actually did his formal final eval today, this afternoon, actually. He slotted in right behind Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, and J.K. Dobbins as my running back 4, ahead of Cam Akers, ahead of Zach Moss, and some other names that we've mentioned. Like you said, second, third rounder, definitely. I think 47 if we're going to take a running back. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's in the running there. For those that don't know Clyde, he's a very Devontae Freeman-esque in his style. He kind of reminds me of Devontae Freeman during that rookie contract when he was arguably a top 5 running back in the league. He's got a low center of gravity. He can pack a punch, but he can also make you miss. He's very elusive. Does really well in the pass game. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire a lot. I'm just not a huge fan of spending high draft capital on a running back.
Yeah, not when you have guys like year in and year out, guys like Phillip Lindsay.
Phillip Lindsay's a perfect example.
Who come undrafted and just light it up. And even guys like, Devontae. I mean, he was a fourth round pick.
Right, day 3 pick.
Right, he was a day 3 pick. And at one point in time in his career, before the injuries really set in, the concussions and stuff, he was a top 5 back. So, and also it's a cautionary tale because you see how short-lived that is.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
just the nature of the game at this point in the NFL. The usability of running backs, especially with them getting a lot of work in the passing game. They have a short life, shelf life. We saw that with LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yep.
He was drafted in 2000.
I
don't even know, but he didn't last very long. Let's just say that. But he had a great career. Todd Gurley, prime example, had a great first couple years, but the wear and tear got to him.
Yeah, big time.
Now I'll tell you this much.
Yep.
You got to give Bobby Turner a lot of credit for Devontae Freeman's success. Them 2,000-yard seasons, about 28 touchdowns, them first couple of years with Bobby Turner there. Since Bobby Turner has been gone, they've tried to bring someone else in that's been in the NFL for a while, but it still hasn't quite turned out the way that they would have liked. Now, of course, like you said, injuries, concussions, and things of that nature. Now, but I'll say this. If Freeman comes in and he gets you about 500 yards receiving, 600 yards rushing, which I think that was kind of what his numbers were, you got some success in a dirt cutter offense with that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because Dirk Cutter is never going to. They talked about it again Dan Quinn paying lip service to it at the combine, talking about
Man.
won't be, more run heavy and da-da-da-da-da. You got the wrong guy for that, Killer. The only time Dirk Cutter is going to be successful with a run game is when he has a prime Maurice Jones-Drew and Fred Taylor. Again, back to my theory that he uses whatever elite talent he has.
Because he had no receivers when he came to Jacksonville in 2007.
So he had to use the daggum running game. Cody Paul made a comment that I like. He says, take the money that you save by not re-signing Hooper and the money you get from cutting Freeman, and get a game-changing defensive free agent. I am down for that.
Yeah.
I am down for, these past few years under Dan Quinn, it's been mid-tier to bottom-tier defensive free agents. It's been nothing against them, but it's been the Tyler Davisons and
Brooks Reed.
Brooks Reeds and Bruce Irvin for a half a season. It's been like just like Band-Aids and duct tape. Give me a real pillar that we can build on.
If you get one of those top edge rushers, Yannick Ngakoue from Jacksonville, Robert Quinn, can fill a role, Dante Fowler, you get one of those guys, obviously it's not as high of a necessity in the first round. You take dream scenario here.
Okay.
Javon Kinlaw,
Yes.
drafted in the first round.
Thank you.
This is after signings. We'll say Yannick Ngakoue. He's the best one available.
Okay.
So Javon Kinlaw in the first. So you got your defensive line. You're good.
Right.
We could double dip on edge rusher in the draft, get a young piece that can rotate in there, especially if Takk's not going to get that 5th-year option. And then going corner, round 2, whether that's a Bryce Hall, packs a punch, good zone defender. Or we can even, go with a Kenneth Murray could see a slide if you want to go linebacker, off-ball linebacker.
Right, I got you.
Right. So you have Deion Jones, who's that coverage, very athletic. Then you have Kenneth Murray beside him, who's going to pack a punch in the run game.
Right. Or you could even, in the second round, pick up like a Zach Bond.
Zach Bond would be a great second-round pick.
That Devondre Campbell, hybrid role.
Right.
Or even Uche out of Michigan.
Very similar.
Yeah, Josh Uche.
Uche. Josh Uche. He's very similar to Zach Bond. A little bit less technically refined.
Right.
But very similar prospects. I think you can get him a little bit later than Bond. But both great players that can fill a big role in it.
Right. I'm definitely agreeing with Chat as far as let's get a decent defensive free agent, for a change. And yes, somebody's over here saying Davidson was good. Davidson is good. But you also have Deidre Sanat that hasn't seen the field much.
Right.
And you may not be able to re-sign Davidson like you want. So you might actually be pressed into having to use Sanat.
And there was a clip out of him working out, so we'll see.
Doing things that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
Doing a whole pull-ups while somebody's beating you in the stomach with a medicine ball. It hit me once and I just folded.
Oh, I'm caving.
I would just absolutely.
I'm caving before the ball hits me. just the thought of it.
Oh God, please don't hit me again.
Yeah, and I don't think Kinlaw's out of the question. I think that's something that a lot of fans are saying is that Kinlaw's going to get drafted higher, especially after that Senior Bowl. There's only a couple teams that are very needy of a defensive tackle. But you look at those same teams, and they're needy of big positions elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Indianapolis has been someone that's been pegged to them. They can go quarterback. Jacoby Brissett, they're in a Super Bowl window, Indianapolis. Yes. They have the roster to win a Super Bowl outside of quarterback. Jacoby Brissett's a fine, he can fill a role.
Well, you saw what Brissett gave you last year.
Yeah, he's average.
Yeah,
he's just an average quarterback. He's a good backup.
Right.
And then after that, you have Tampa, who we've been seeing pegging Javon Kinlaw to. Quarterback needy. They can go.
Well.
They can move back to take Eason and accumulate more draft capital. Heck, they can like Eason enough. There's been rumors that he's their QB two on their board.
Wow.
I saw that on Twitter yesterday.
I think Bruce Arians has been more of a guy. He wants to work with a veteran quarterback. I could see him them going after somebody like a Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, but even more so than wanting a veteran, he likes a strong vertical arm.
True. Well, that's his game.
That's his game. That's his offense. It's vertical.
His offense.
Stretching the field. You have the receiving core to do it in Tampa. So Jacob Eason, obviously, he has some things to work on. Decision making wise and poise, progressions. But he has the tools that Bruce Arians likes in a quarterback. They're not necessarily going Javon Kinlaw. I could see Kinlaw sliding to 16. And it's just because the teams that could potentially take them in front of them
now
have other needs.
My only, it's not even really even a concern because I'll deal with it and like it, but Kinlaw seems more like a penetrating defensive tackle. Now, you would still need more of a run stuffing defensive tackle,
right?
Because now you're talking about having 2 penetrating tackles. Now, granted,
in the NFL today, it's a passing NFL.
Right.
Yes.
We're getting after the quarterback. Pat Mahomes, we got him on the schedule. We're getting after him.
Like my thought has always been, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
Right.
The heck with going around the edge.
Yeah.
I'll just go
build
through
it up the middle.
Right. Build it up through the middle, and especially if you have, the cornerbacks to lock down the receivers to give time to get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
That is, and hopefully that Joe Witt Jr. Ain't that the defensive back coach?
Yeah.
Maybe he can come in and work some magic with some of these young guys we got. But, we have busted up over an hour, as we tend to do. So I guess we're going to go start wrapping it up. We thank y'all so much for joining us in chat. Y'all have thrown out a good amount of questions. I know we weren't able to get to a lot of them. With the third person here, we actually had a great conversation going. Right. Alex, we would like to thank you, for stopping by and giving us your insight. It has been awesome
to
get a different perspective. And we're definitely, if you get a chance, we'd like to have you back on after after our draft and to talk about who we have. Picked,
maybe give a grade and talk about each individual pick. Yeah, for sure.
You want to hit your plugs again?
Yeah. So I'll just say, first of all, thank y'all for having me.
Yes, sir.
Y'all have some good talk, and y'all are real nice guys, so I appreciate everything. Just if you have any more questions or you want to talk ball with me, whether it's just draft prospects in general or Falcons football, hit me up on Twitter at Alex Gilstrap. I'm always down to talk ball. That's what I do all day, every day. So I know there's been I've seen some questions and some prospects that y'all want some takes on. If y'all have questions about that, just get at me on Twitter. Right. I'll respond.
And his name is in the
description
down below, so you'll be able to find him there. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Grim1128. It's GRIMM 1128.
Toby D 1991.
And we'll be back again doing a live show 2 weeks from now. Probably have some more stuff to talk about. Between now and then, me and Toby will be dropping some solo videos, so keep an eye on the channel for that. We're getting into the time of the year where we have some interesting things to discuss.
Yeah, it was a lot today.
Right. But, as always, we appreciate y'all, and Falcons fans,
rise up.